Guys, thanks for being here. By raise of hands, who in the room is an actor who's curious about the process? Love it. Who in the room is a director who's curious about wanting to talk to actors? Cool, cool. Well, my encouragement to you guys is, one, I have learned something incredible from each person on this panel. Not multi-talented people who are incredible. Amber, my wife, is clearly my wife. I married her, so she's super dope. But Amber's an incredible producer as well as an actress. Micah, also an incredible producer and actress, as well as does hair and makeup. Brett Varvel, director, producer, writer, actor. Aaron Fullen, composer, writer, actor. Okay, so look, there is a vast amount of wisdom on this panel. I'm grateful to be sharing the stage with them and get to kind of facilitate some of the questions. But I would press you guys in to start thinking now, because we have an hour to share with you guys. And I know that time's going to go quickly, but I really want you to think about questions that you may not get another opportunity to ask, because I know I want to sit here and just ask them all questions. It would be like a podcast. It'll be really fun. So go ahead, jump on the poll if you've got a question. I'm going to start us off with my first question, which would be, what is your favorite part of the audition process?
None of it.
I was literally going to say none of it.
Thanks, guys. That's it. Everybody, we're done now.
I think getting excited about a new character, and I think you have to choose to enjoy that process, because it is pretty tedious sometimes, and it is disheartening because you audition a lot and you don't get it a lot. And so I think for me, having the mindset of, if this is the only time I ever get to be this character, what do I want to do with it? You know, so just enjoy, and you only get a little piece of the character, you know, so just have fun with that little piece that you're given, and that makes it slightly more enjoyable. Actually, I'll add on to that. My favorite part of the audition process is getting into the character, like costume, hair, and makeup, because that's kind of my side thing. Like, that to me is fun. So I tend to go a little overboard with the character's like aesthetic.
I would definitely say, those of you who have trained with Justin and I love to take my character, like I have a joke with my studio students, like on a coffee date. And I love to ask a million questions and be curious, because like Micah was saying, it can feel really draining before you even begin. But to have that curiosity and getting to know them like a real person, because to the writer, they are, and we're trying to portray a real person. And so I would say that's my favorite part, and I also love the hair and makeup too. It's a fun way to create and behold the creator just being like, I'm learning how to listen in a different person's body.
Is this, yeah. I like getting the role. That's my favorite part of the audition. No, I would say learning about myself every audition I do. I think that's what I do well, what I don't do well. Auditions, it's rehearsal, it's practice. So you should be doing practice outside of auditions as well. But audition is a great opportunity to really hone in on what your strengths and weaknesses are. And as you rewatch it, you know, self-tape, and before you submit it, you're watching yourself. It gives you a great opportunity to, you know, self-critique.
Yeah, I would just kind of add to that. I feel the same way, and because self-tape is the industry now, by and large, I like that you get to make mistakes and craft and hone that audition until you feel right about it to present it. Because some people love the live auditions. They love sitting in front of the director and getting that real energy. When I was doing live auditions, it was more in the commercial space, and that was just terrifying and very discouraging. But so there's something that's really practical and fun about taking chances and knowing that, you know, the slim chance that there may be of getting that part doesn't really matter, as long as you're continuing to explore the craft and try new and exciting things with the character.
That's great. Brett, I'm going to come back to you in a question, but I think my favorite part is, one, I think something that we oversee quickly is the opportunity to realize that we are being seen in the first place. And I think as actors, one of the things that we end up going into the industry a lot of the time, we hear people all the time that are like, oh, I just really want to be famous, it'd be awesome. And I start thinking, early on I was like, oh, they don't really care about the craft. They just want the fame. What I started realizing as I got deeper into the industry was that they really just want to be known. And what's great about being Christian actors is that we are known every single day, every single moment. And when we get the opportunity to have an audition, regardless of whether it's one that we self-submitted for through an online profile or our agent or manager sent it to us, every time that I get an email in my inbox, I stop and I try to have an opportunity to thank God and just say, you're seeing me, you value me, you gave the gifts to me, and you're providing for me through those gifts. And it's an opportunity to be reminded that we're seen every single moment, which is really awesome. I want to jump back real quick to Brett. You played a really awesome character in American Underdog. When you auditioned for that process, was it self-tape, taped callback, taped recallback? Like how many different tapes were there before you were on set with John and Andy shooting the movie?
That one was an interesting one because they had already had several rounds of auditions for the character that I ended up playing, and they were specifically trying to cast more local to Oklahoma where they were shooting because it's a small role. And so they had seen thousands and thousands of actors already, and then they opened it up broader because they weren't finding who they wanted. And so the local casting agent connected with my agent, asked me to audition, and I booked it off of that first audition, and it was kind of off to the races from there. So that one was a very pleasant surprise because it doesn't always go that way. But whatever I did in that audition, I have to find it because I don't remember it to be honest, because I've really tried to train myself to audition and then forget it. But whatever I did, Andy really, really liked. He said that I had enough caffeine because that's what the character really needed, and more caffeine. That was our code on set, was more caffeine, to play Steve Mariucci.
I love it. Okay, first question out the gate is, do you study other characters in other films to find your character, or do you like to make your character entirely your own, completely isolated?
I pick and choose things from different people, or I can't say that I've really based it off of other like film characters, but I started in theater, and there was one, my family always makes fun of me for this, because there was this one character that I literally based off of my sister's guinea pig. And I know it sounds weird, but the guinea pig just had this little like boop, 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 like energy about it, and I was just like, I just feel like this character's very like boop, boop, so I had like my brother-in-law, he was like really, really young. It was like kind of based off of like a toddler and this guinea pig. So you can get inspiration from anywhere. So, but make it your own.
Yes.
Good actors will like take things from other people. I think Michael Caine says the best actors steal from other people. Steal it, make it your own, so nobody knows that it was somebody else's.
Steal like an artist. Great book if you ever want to read a great book.
Kind of going off of what Micah said, I relate to that so much because I don't know if anyone, I'm kind of a geek about the Enneagram. It's such a helpful tool. So I kind of like to see a script and go, what's this girl like? Is she, a peacemaker? Is she an Enneagram 9? And kind of study what motivates her. Because I'm an Enneagram 1. Any Enneagram 1s in here? What's up? It's normally 3s as actors. Anyway.
Or 7s. Who's a 7 in the room? Yeah, there's like 5 hands.
But it's really helpful because they also have like a strengths and weaknesses section whenever you study, people. It's helpful to kind of pull from people in your real life respectfully.
I'm going to curate this question a little bit specifically to you, Aaron, after hearing some great answers. As someone who values sketch comedy and produces a lot of your own comedic material, I know that I love to create characters based on people that I've run into in supermarkets or coffee shops, whatever, and take those people and really implement them. So rather than me playing a character from a different film or somebody else that might have already been platformed in a movie somewhere, I'm usually pulling from somebody that I've seen in everyday life that I'm like, that employee or that person, I want to be just like them. I want to walk like them, talk like them. Do you do that with characters that you've created? Like, do you have people on Instagram that you perform as and then?
Yeah, well, one thing, comedy, if you're interested in comedy is basically you observe life and reality and just exaggerate it. Put it under a magnifying glass. And that's where you get those extreme characters who are really, really funny because people can spot the reality in it, even though they know it's an exaggerated example of it. When it comes to a challenge of auditioning as someone who leans heavily into comedy, is toning it down. Because generally, everything on film is magnified, and people don't want to see an exaggerated version of who your character is. They want to see who the character is as they are. So when I come doing a character, first thing I always think is, you know what? They asked me to audition. so I'm going to go with my gut. They clearly see me, who I am in this character. So that should give you some confidence. So going into it, going with your gut, but also if your tendency is to over-exaggerate, you need to rein that in for self-tapes.
Great. Okay, so another question we have: as an actor, how should we find roles that are safe without an agent? And with that, how can we go about finding an agent, since there aren't many Christian agents out there? I'm gonna hop on this one first. This is something I'm super passionate about, because as Amber and I started educating in our area, North Atlanta, we started realizing that there are, so many scams out there, right? So many short films, so many productions, so many companies that are there to take advantage of your skill, your time, your energy, your resources, and sometimes you just as an individual, which is really, really unhealthy for us to be a part of multiple projects. I can guarantee you that almost every person in this room has been on a set that they walked away from and like, I am not a better person because I was on that set. Or I am physically, mentally, spiritually exhausted from the people I was just around and the experience of being in that film. So these are like super fast tips that I would just throw out to anybody. If you're a note taker, this is something that I am really, really asking myself when other opportunities come up from people I haven't networked with. Usually at this point, people are emailing either our agent or manager, which I think all of us are with the same agency, which is great. And in the process, like, she gets to do most of the vetting for us. Now, sometimes we have to act, upon our own instinct and ask our own questions and read the script, read the material, have a director's conversation. I can't tell you how many conversations with the director have led me to go, I really don't want to be a part of this film. No, in total honesty, like, it's really difficult. So, a couple what's the word? Thank you, babe. Key things. Oh, that was Micah. Sorry, I just heard next to me. Key things is... my first thing, if you're a super, super beginner actor and you have never booked before, and your goal is to just get on set, you are as desperate to be on set than you've ever been, and all you want to do is get there. You need to stop and filter everything that is coming through your email, your inbox, whatever, through a lens that is this going to benefit me long term? And I would say you can literally go down to even, what camera is this short film being shot on? What is this team using? Because you can start drawing comparisons to quality, time. If it's one person, usually it's like, I think I said this last year actually, if there's one director that's like, oh yeah, I'm the director, producer, editor, first AD, gaffer, grip, electric, right? If they're doing all of that, the chances are you're gonna end up being just a commodity to them. Stand here, say this line, hold on, let me move the boom mic, let me do that. And it's gonna actually take more effort from you to not just wanna either help them do something that's not specifically your job. So I would tell you, like, ask questions. How many people are on the crew? What camera are you shooting on? Is this gonna be something that will benefit me on my demo reel? Like, if they're like, oh yeah, we got this, I don't know, Canon T6i from Walmart and my grandma's gonna shoot it. Like, okay, maybe you could shoot some stuff. And there are some really incredible DPs in the room even that will shoot on any camera and make it look great. Our phones shoot great material. You can get good material from your phone. But you have to ask other questions that kind of help filter that. So some key stuff, like asking questions about the entire process, not just, oh, you want me to be in the movie? Done, I'm there. That happens so often. And honestly, it's really, really difficult when you get there to start backtracking because you're already there. You're like, let me just say the lines and I'll leave. But actually, I think also, I don't know if you guys would agree with this. Maybe this is a good way to toss it over to you. I feel like our reputation is really important. And I ultimately think if people see work that we're committing ourselves to that is not of the utmost excellence, that is not done with a team of people who did pre-production, who had time spent in the writing process, it wasn't written overnight. People who write scripts and they're like, oh, I wrote this in a week. I'm like, okay, here we go. You know what I mean? Because you need time working through and, like, I don't know, poking holes in material and actually asking all of these questions. So do you guys feel like getting on set, or not getting on set, sorry. I totally lost my train of thought because I was rambling. Sorry, guys. Again, passionate about this topic. Do you feel like working with people maybe that are not specifically preparing every element of the production as best as they could does actually a bigger disservice to you as an actor and the furthering of your career when people see the end product, if it goes out there?
Well, I don't know if this story is helpful for anyone in the audience, but personally, for LifeMark, for me, when it says, as an actor, how should we find roles that are safe, right? Actors Access is such an amazing tool because we get the breakdown to vet and look on IMDb at the producer, at the writer, at all of the different people involved with the project. And so for LifeMark, before, I just saw title LifeMark. And then I got the audition. I'm very, very pro-life, and as I'm sure many of you are, and it said abortion clinic employee. Before I looked to see if the Kendrick brothers were a part of it, I was like, oh, I guess I'll just turn this down. But then I went over and I saw, oh, it's Kirk Cameron, the Kendrick brothers, and I know what they stand for. So I didn't push aside something that God had for me because I knew the people's values behind the project. So my suggestion would be to always look up who's involved, see other projects they've done. As far as an agent, Jean Wenger, I think, is the best. I love her, and I think she's such a woman of integrity. And I would wait until you are ready to get an incredible agent who will fight for you like Treasure Coast Talent. So don't feel like you have to get an agent yet. Try to be a part of some school projects or something where you know the people, or you work, at another studio that's doing demo reels, and just take your time. Don't feel like you have to jump in just so that you can check off that you're doing a professional project. You can always vet the people.
For mainly probably the ladies out there, I know it can be a little more scary in getting onto a set, and rightly so. You do have to be very, very cautious and aware. I would say if you don't, obviously I'm assuming you don't have an agent. If you're getting on a set, make sure somebody knows that you're going to be there. Make sure they're tracking your phone or whatever. Like, make sure somebody knows. Also make sure you have read the script and you have signed a contract that you're okay what is in the script. If there's anything you are not comfortable with, just don't do it. If there's something that maybe could be worked around, have that conversation before you get on set with the producer, director, whoever it is, probably the director or writer, and let them know that. Like, I have lost roles because I got it and then talked to them. I was like, I'm not comfortable with this. But also, if it's in the breakdown and you know that you're not comfortable with it, just don't audition. Or if they really want to see you, then let them know, like, I'm okay auditioning for it, I'm not okay with this, this, and this, and let them know that. Because I learned the hard way when I was first in theater. I auditioned for a role, and I wasn't comfortable with some of the stuff in it, and just thinking like, oh, well, they can just change it. Like, I was super naive, and that didn't go well. I booked the role, and then they were like, oh, you're not gonna take it? Cool, and like, didn't get to work with them again. Yeah, and then also I would say one other thing, because again, I've learned this the hard way. Have it in your contract, make sure you get, this is mainly guerrilla filmmaking, make sure you get paid before you shoot your last scene. Before you start your last day, make sure you have your check in your hands. Otherwise, you're not gonna shoot your last scene or your last day of shooting until you get paid, because I've never gotten paid for something. So make sure you do that as well.
I have a little bit of a slightly different. I agree with everything you guys just said, but the take that God has allowed into my life is, so I didn't have an agent for years up until 2019. I actually met Jean at the Christian Worldview Film Festival, and signed with her, and the rest is history, so to speak. But some of the roles that I accepted, I didn't know what I didn't know, and the Lord allowed some very challenging projects into my life that taught me and challenged me to look beyond the craft and to the fact that these are human beings, broken people trying to figure out how to do this life as well. Micah and I actually met on a film set. I won't say what it was. But one of the only reasons that I accepted that position was because of Micah and several others in the cast that I knew there's got to be at least a backbone to the fact that this is going to be done well, because I knew that I felt comfortable with the people that they had casted. It was a train wreck. There's just no other way to explain it.
That's an understatement.
We were taken advantage of. There was just a lot of dysfunction. But I still look back on that and I smile because of how God used it in my life. People love that movie for some reason, and I don't understand why. But just the life lessons that I learned from that project, as bad as it was, still God used for good and to redeem. And so take that with a grain of salt. Everything they just said, still vet, still do your homework, because you don't want to be put into a situation that's going to negatively impact you. Thankfully, I don't think I've been a part of anything that's negatively impacted me so far. Some people may disagree, be like, no, Brett, you've been a part of some things that negatively impacted you. And that's where I think just taking every project to the Lord in prayer and seeking peace that surpasses understanding from the Holy Spirit, seeking discernment. There's just the Old Testament, and specifically Psalms and Proverbs, is just covered with examples of, I think of Proverbs chapter 2, when you search for wisdom as if it was hidden treasure, the Lord will grant it to you. Be desperate for God's wisdom when you're trying to navigate things, especially if you don't have an agent, because you don't have that vetting barrier for you already. But again, I didn't have an agent for years, and the Lord provided it in a very unexpected way. So just take that for a grain of salt.
Yeah, similar to what Brett was saying. The first thing I did as a represented actor, other than commercial work, was a show that was as guerrilla independent filmmaking as it gets. And I was in shock. Like the entire time, I could not believe what was happening before my eyes. But I learned so much from that, and I wasn't unsafe. I wasn't, in danger of any sort. I just knew that this is about as bare bones as it gets. And I learned how to memorize lines better because they just weren't. They weren't taking short chunks of scenes and blocking it out. They were just like, okay, here's your script. All right, the camera stays there, and then 7 pages of dialogue. Go! And that's how it happened. And so I learned an incredible skill. I hate memorizing lines. So it forced me to do things that I wasn't super comfortable with. So be careful. But as you're starting out, you'll probably be part of projects that they're not at the scale that you want them to be. But that's part of the journey. And getting to that point, you will learn so much, okay? As far as vetting, I would say like Actors Access is a great site. Faith-based casting, if you want to get on there, if you specifically look at faith-based castings, you can self-submit right now without an agent, okay? Agents are helpful, they are not necessary. So get on that website, look through breakdowns, find roles that you think you could, do well at, and submit. So you can start now. You do not have to wait to get to a certain point in your career. Practice, practice, practice.
Especially being here at the film festival. Meet directors. Go talk to people that you don't know, don't recognize, introduce yourself, and get connected. Like, that's why we're here, is to get connected. And I would hope, Lord willing, everybody here is safe. It's a safe space, to learn and hone your craft, so.
And there's some incredible filmmakers that are coming up. I just keep watching people that are just releasing cool stuff. I'm like, whoa, where did that come from? That's amazing. And I know that in like a year, some of these people are going to be shooting feature films, which is going to be amazing. Okay, what made you feel like God was calling you to be an actor?
My journey with acting has been very, very interesting. I was when I was 5. I had seen a family-approved version of the movie Back to the Future, and it was that film that made me want to be a storyteller, made me want to be a filmmaker. I wanted to be Marty McFly.
You are Marty McFly, the Christian Marty McFly.
Mission accomplished.
But in my teenage years, my parents, with great wisdom, sat me down and said, "Hey, we see that you love performing and that you love acting. Just know that, from what we can tell, acting is a life of compromise for many people." And so I really just, and at that point in time, I had picked up enough cameras and found this love of directing that's what I started going forward with. But always in the back of my mind, I knew I love bringing characters to life. And so I just kind of reserved it that the Lord would open those doors if that's what he wanted me to do. And I had appeared in a couple of my own films, and then the Lord started literally opening doors for me where I wasn't even auditioning. People were calling me and asking me to be in their projects, and then that led me getting back into auditioning and things like that. And so it was kind of this long, many-year process for me. That's not everybody's experience, and I'm fully aware of that. But it was one of those things that it's at the cornerstone for me. It was this posture of, Lord, I'm not going to walk through this door unless it's something that you actually have gifted me to do and you want me to do. because I know my own heart, and because I want to be Marty McFly. You know, I want to be on those big film sets. I want to do the cool Back to the Future type movies. I know how that can sway me in a direction that's not going to be pleasing to the Lord. So I always take this open-handed posture with my acting career before the Lord.
That's awesome. I think for me, it is about, I don't know, I've been in this since I was a kid. I was a kid actor. So for a decade plus doing self-tapes, doing work like this, kind of being a part of it. And the truth is, I fell in love with God after I fell in love with acting. And it had to replace. It had to find a new priority in my life. So I would tell you that God redirected my focus. It wasn't I fell in love with the process because God was calling me to acting. I found simple skill or raw talent or whatever agents that look at a 12-year-old beatboxing in Kroger and say, yeah, he's good. He should be an actor. You know what I mean? So I had already started the process of being like, I love this. This is something I like. I really enjoy this. And then when God was like, yeah, but you're going to love me more. You're going to put me first. You're going to prioritize me. And it's still a struggle. And I think one of the greatest things, somebody prayed this morning in our prayer meeting with the speakers that we are all tempted to put ourselves above the things that we love. I love film. I love talking about color. I love talking about the edit. I love going through the process of communicating with people and checking in where they're at on their film that they've been working on. But if I haven't stopped and prayed and read my Bible first, then I know that, you know what I mean, my priorities are out of whack. So I think I was redirected to fall in love with God before, and it has impacted me ever since. And ultimately, there was a question earlier that says, do you do Christian content or secular content, whatever? And I would say, as a Christian, I am only doing Christian content. Like, I'm not doing secular work. I am a Christian. If I work in a film that is not specifically about Jesus, my goal is to make that film about Jesus somehow, to communicate, even if it's just impacting the crew. But back to the question for you guys, what is it? What was God calling you into the industry, and what was that like for you?
Guys, this is an ongoing journey for me. Just this past week, I was like, God, if you want me to give this up, I will, for you. And it's very, very hard because the self-centeredness of an actor when we're not in alignment with God, it's a tug to want to prove, it's a tug to want to be seen and all this stuff. And I just felt like he was like, Amber, I'm not calling you to be an actor. I'm calling you to create and behold me as the creator. And in doing that, share my message. And honestly, it's so, even just being up here with all my friends and people I look up to so much, it's like the only reason I get to sit up here is through acting. So I feel like God's like, this is the vessel in which you get to talk about me. And when it gets out of whack, it might get snatched up. And honestly, I hope it does, sadly.
For me, I grew up the very, very shy, awkward homeschooler who couldn't make eye contact with anybody, legitimately. And I was one of a lot of kids, and I just felt lost. And I remember being at this place where I was like, my siblings all had their thing. And I was just praying, I was like, I just need something that I wasn't just one of the Hanson girls. I had an identity, you know? And I randomly decided to audition for this little musical happening in my hometown, and getting on stage, it just made sense. I just knew how to do it. Didn't have any training. There's absolutely no reason I should know how to do this or be any good at it by any means. My parents were like, who are you? And what did you do with our daughter? There's just no reason. So for me, I think I knew that I was kind of called to it because it's not me. I literally didn't do anything to be good at this. Now, granted, I've done a lot of work since, but I don't know. I think God just has a sweet spot for all of us, and it changes throughout your life. But that's how I knew there was so much, there was just so much grace poured out on me in that area, I guess I would say. So that's how I knew he was calling me to that. And then the doors he kept opening were, the only ones that I walked through were the ones that were God honoring, and making sure that a prayer I prayed from when I was really young was don't let me make it until me and you are good. I don't want to be a statistic. I don't want to be Britney Spears or Miley Cyrus who started out as Christians and then lost it all. I was like, if I never get there, fine, don't let me get there. So I would just say pray a version of that prayer and just follow where you feel God is opening those doors and where you feel a lot of life in you, you know?
Yeah, similar story as far as I was just very interested in it very early on. I had two older brothers. We acted like buffoons in front of a camera, and I found out very soon that out of the three of us, I was the one who was most interested in performing. And I had just mentioned in the previous chat we had, I wanted right out of high school to move to LA and just try it, because I thought, you know what, if some people think I can do this, I want to do it. And you know, that 18-year-old upspa that you have when you're, you know, just you feel like you can conquer the world. And then I think as actors, more than any other person on a film set, struggle with that idea of pride. I'll just put it that way, because you're the face on the screen. There's a temptation for pride in every aspect of film. But I think a lot of actors, it's hard to remember, like Michael was saying, the priority of why you're doing what you're doing, and keeping that always in check. There's nothing wrong with having great joy in performing and being an actor. So I don't want you to get that idea, but that we do have to be very self-aware and constantly keep ourselves in check and pray, Lord, let me do this for your glory, not for my own, and to help me tell great stories for your sake. So just encourage you to remember that. And for me, the Lord said, wait. I was 18, wanted to be an actor, and 12 years later, I was 30 years old when I signed with Jean Wenger, and she reached out to me. So those kind of things where I think the Lord takes you through a process of saying, okay, it's too important to you. All right, way too important to you. Wait. I'm not saying eliminate it from your life, because I knew it was there, but it was a matter of timing. So
Great answer.
That verse, to whom much is given, much is required, kind of just keeps ringing with me. And
Spider-Man?
no, that's a verse.
Responsibility.
No, there's a verse in the Bible.
Verse. Okay, I got it.
Yeah,
Sorry.
I'm talking about Spider-Man. You know, the holy word of Spider-Man. I believe it's a Bible verse. I could be wrong. Okay, I was like, wait, now I'm all off track here.
Bad joke.
And we've been given eternal life. We've been given everything. We've been given so much, and so there is much required of us, you know? And it's hard as an actor, like, and even especially think as an actress, like, there's a lot of roles that we can't take because they are too sexual, or they are too this, or they're too, you know? And it's really hard to say no, but if you stay the course and just remember that we do have to carry a lot, but it's because we've been given so much.
I love that. I was making the joke about power with great power comes great responsibility. I don't know if anybody. Cool.
Sorry.
You're good.
I was following you. It's okay.
Thanks, Brett. Okay, I'm gonna target questions to individuals so that we can get through more questions now. But okay, Brett, do you make? I don't even like this word, secular films. But do you make films that are not God honoring? I don't know. No, do you? No, come on. I mean, here's the thing. Do you make secular films that are not specifically faith-based or for the purpose of evangelical forwarding?
So I would answer it yes and no. And the reason I say that is that a lot of people look at the feature films that I've been blessed to be a part of. What they don't see is how I pay my bills everywhere else throughout the year. And there's a lot of corporate work. There's a lot of promotional films. And next month I'm going to be shooting a music video for it's a secular song. There's nothing redeeming about it. And that's still God honoring because of why I'm doing it. Providing for my family is a really biblical thing. And so I think that when it comes to like the feature films though, I've been open in my posture before the Lord for years now that if He would call me to a secular film set that has no evangelical or redeeming or biblical cornerstone to the script, that there would have to be some kind of really specific reason that He wants me to do that. I for years was attached as a director to a sci-fi film that was going to be this, I thought life-altering opportunity for me, and even they even changed the script for me because I wasn't going to do it, and wasted 4 years of my life pouring into this movie that never happened. And I finally woke up one day and I realized that regardless of whether this movie ever gets off the ground or not, I can't be a part of it because there were things that had found its way into the script that the writer and producer were putting in that I couldn't, as you so eloquently put in your session, that film credit, when it hits the screen, you're putting your stamp of approval on that message. And so I called the producer and I said, I'm sorry, I know I've poured 4 years of my life in this thing, but I'm out. And he was ticked. And we have a cordial relationship today, which is great. But I think you have to ask the question, like, what is God honoring? Just because a movie, now granted, I'm the person who will stand up here all day long and say you need to preach the gospel through your films. Like, come on, somebody, like, preach the gospel, please. But that doesn't make the film God honoring. I believe that the approach to the film, the execution of the film, the way you treat your cast and crew, the way that you do things with excellence can be God honoring. But at the same time, that's not a license to do any movie under the sun just because you want to be God honoring by doing it. I mean, it could have the most foul filth in the movie and be like, but it was God honoring because I loved everybody. Again, going back to Proverbs chapter 2, find discernment, find wisdom. I go where the Lord wants me to go. And now granted, my bent and my drive is constantly going to be to preach the gospel. That's just something that happened in my life when I was 18. I had this life-altering event happen in my life that it just kind of set me on this course that I can't turn away from anymore. But I'm not opposed to doing a film that doesn't preach the gospel, if that makes sense. So constantly ask yourself that question: is it God honoring versus is it Christian or is it secular?
Good answer. And I just jump on the back of that for a second and say, the entire film, if I'm getting seen, because I'm often not going to go in for the lead main character guy, but I may come in as a pizza delivery guy and make a funny joke or the barista or whatever. But if the script and the entire story stands for something narratively that doesn't agree with what I morally feel, I'm not going to step in and support that film as just similar in the credits. My name's not even going to be 20th, 30th, 40th on the call sheet if I'm going to show up and just be one character. It doesn't matter if it's a SAG film. It doesn't matter what it is. And we've learned the hard way by doing those films and then going in. You have to sit and watch the whole movie. You have to sit and consume, and what we consume, we end up pouring out into our everyday life. So that's really great. What do you have to say to someone who's aspiring to be specifically a voice actor? Anybody here do a lot of voice work? I have a quick thought. I mean, buy a microphone. Just, we audition. I think we probably all have auditioned for what Brett was saying earlier, to put bread on the table. You know what I mean? Like, if there's a voiceover that wants, I don't know, animated series or whatever, great. We'll send it in. But the best thing I can tell you is to buy a microphone, find commercials, cartoon shows, or stuff that you really love that you want to do voices for, and create a little vocal demo reel that you can send to your agent and say, hey, look, if there's projects that come through, or that you can just support yourself, and when people are like, oh, what do? I'm a voice actor. Here's my vocal demo reel. Show them a clip so they can see, oh, yeah, you've got a good speaking voice. You speak with clarity. You've got fun characters that you can do. That's kind of the first step I would do. And the truth is, guys, this is not a shameless plug, but like Amber and I are going to talk about getting into the business and starting and self-tape, even talking about equipment that's really inexpensive that you can do quality self-tapes. You can record insane audio on your voice memos in your phone. On your phone. If you step into a closet or put a blanket over your head and you record, you can create your demo reel for your voice with your voice memos on your phone. So you don't have to go and do any investment into it. So that's what I would say.
Also, YouTube is your best friend.
Come on. Yeah. Start posting and start watching other people. YouTube University is one of the greatest places to learn. So I love that. I'm going to jump, Aaron. How do you promote yourself as an actor? Because you have a pretty big
I want to
following.
listen to this because I
Yeah.
I have no idea what I'm doing.
We've been trying to
in
get
that
Brett
realm.
to do this for years.
That's a great question, Justin.
Teach me.
It's tricky. I'll just put it that way. For me, that's how I got into the industry, was promoting myself in order for someone to find me, because I didn't know where to go or how to get back in after I had taken such a long break. So social media was my in. I'll just put it that way. That is what I did in the interim between 18 years old and 30. I needed an outlet for my performances.
Your wife was
and-
like, he needs an outlet.
I know. My wife was like, okay, make videos, do something. So that's what I did. I started making comedy shorts online. And some people resonated with them.
Some
And so
people, what is it, like 50,000 between your Facebook and your Instagram? Or more than that?
It's up there.
What is it? How many is it?
It's around, on Facebook, it's 280,000 now.
Okay, 280,000 people. That's promoting yourself.
Yeah, well, and part of it came from I partnered early on with Facebook. This is not what you're asking for, but
No, it is, because these
I just want
these
to
are under
say
the table
I didn't
things
grow
we
it
need to-
all myself. Okay, so I partnered with Facebook. They reached out to me when they were starting to try and compete with YouTube to put ad income in their videos, and so they had a creative launch pad where they were reaching out to micro influencers. I was a micro influencer at the time, so they didn't have to pay you too much, but they paid me weekly to create content, and then they marketed it and put it out there for free. Increased my audience size dramatically. I had one-on-one conversations with a rep from Facebook every week where they'd say, you do this better, do this differently, this worked really well. So I got coached in doing that. But since then, yes, getting that audience, figure out what your niche is, and that's what people are going to want to see, okay? I don't just do comedy. My very first role was a bad guy. I don't want to just stick to comedy. I love comedy. But I knew comedy was going to be my avenue in. And so lean into that. Whatever your strength is, and whatever resonates with audiences the most, lean into that and create content that continues to promote that aspect of you. Engage with your audience. That's another thing where I know a lot of people that create content and then just let comments go, and people don't feel like they're seen. So I make it a very, I have met people that said, it feels like I know you because you engage with me online. Building that loyalty, building that sense of I'm not too important for you, that's huge. Because a lot of people look at celebrities, they comment on their stuff and it just gets lost in the masses. It takes time, but if you want to gain a loyal audience, you need to care about them. You need to give them the time of day, and you do that, and you can grow your audience. So, yeah, long story short, social media is a necessary evil, I guess you would say, in many ways. Having a presence, directors do look at your presence online. So, both with size and content, don't put stuff on there that you don't think should be floating around the internet, okay? That seems like a no-brainer, but I've seen way more content out there that I'm like, what are you doing? So yeah, there you go. Is that
I love
fine?
that. And I would say I have hired Aaron on a show before based on watching him online. I've also written parts that I want to shoot in the next 10 years for Aaron because of what he's posted online. So when you guys aren't seeing work or getting auditions or getting whatever, but you are putting time into the investment of creating content, you have no idea who's watching your material, who might not be commenting, who might not be reposting, who might not be forwarding it, but who might be sitting down writing a feature film going, this person, and in 5 years, you're going to get the call. Or in 6 months, you're going to get the call, whatever it is. And a lot of people that are doing that, so that's huge. If we can answer this quickly, I'd love to hear what everybody does between gigs. Like between feature films or shows, I guess, is what the question would be.
All right, I'll try to go fast. Justin and I run a Christian film studio primarily for young people, and we absolutely love to teach and coach and pretty much do what we wish we had when we were first starting out. I was the theater girl wearing a t-shirt or a cute dress that was just a solid color when my character was quirky, or when I was playing a barista, and now I have so much fun knowing the tools and teaching the tools to help, like this question, to make it pop, to show that I'm not just thinking about the acting, I'm just so excited to create, to kind of direct my self-tape, act my self-tape, and then also costume my self-tape. It's like a fun way to kind of be involved in all of it. And so between gigs, that's what Justin and I do. And we also do a lot of consultations about confidence building, which is really a big heartbeat for us because we're also learning that. And it's teaching us to honestly teach other people.
I do hair and makeup on the side. Nannying is a great side gig. I am like an assistant. Just any kind of side hustle that you can think of, I've probably done it.
I own House of Grace Studios, which is my own personal private production company, and it's not only the banner of which I produce my feature films, but then I do commercial work, corporate work, promotional films, and music videos. If I'm not making a feature film, I would love to be doing more music videos. Those are fewer and far between sometimes.
That's because you're in Indiana.
Yeah. Hey, come on to the Midwest, folks. We've got cornfields and flat
Cornfields.
land for days. But yeah, I do a lot of just different things to keep busy.
But I bet in the process of networking and shooting corporately, you found a ton of locations and a ton of contacts for this feature film that you just got done with, right?
It didn't hurt, I'll say that.
Yeah. Guys, the in-between stuff gives you opportunities to observe, as a comedian, observe other people, and to create relationships that you can then bank on when you go to produce your own content. Because then you can go to those people who you've sat in their coffee shop or you've worked in their coffee shop and say, hey, I worked here for 3 or 4 years. I don't know if you remember me, blah, blah, blah. You probably do. Do you mind if we shoot a scene here tomorrow night when you guys close? I'll put it back exactly how I used to because I was a good employee. I'll do exactly what you want. And then you walk out and they're like, yeah, we want you to come back and shoot here. I can think of 6 coffee shops, this is crazy, here in Atlanta, or I guess north in Atlanta, that would let us shoot anytime, any day, no matter what it is, just because of the amount of time and investment we've put in to having conversations with people.
I will say
How much we
this.
buy coffee?
With the movie that I just wrapped,
Yeah.
we spent $0 on locations.
That's
Zero.
one of the largest line items.
And we
you guys.
shot everywhere.
That's awesome.
The other thing I'll say really quick is, like, as an actor, any side gig that you have, it's not, you don't have to waste that. You know, like being a nanny for such a long time, the amount of moms that I've played, and I can play that more authentically because I've been a nanny. Like, everything that you do as a side hustle, use that as an actor, learn, study the children, study whatever you're doing. People watch, just like watch people all the time. And if you can have a side gig that is also in the industry, do that as well. That's why I got into hair and makeup, because I was like, oh, I can do that and be on set and still be meeting people. But especially as actors, like, that's one of the parts in this whole film thing where, like, nothing that you do is going to go to waste, because someday you can get something from that to use in your craft.
Pretty much ditto. Pretty much anything to provide for my family. But the aspect that I would encourage you with the doing anything, most actors are doing stuff on the side. And just a quick story, I worked at a factory for a year because I had to. I found myself without a job on the eve of my 3rd child's birth. And the only person hiring in town was a family friend who owned a manufacturing company. And I was working on the floor. And as a creative, it's torture. It is torture to sit at a machine for 4 hours. There's only so long I can talk to myself and find myself interesting. So it was horrible. It was, in my view, it was a terrible time. It was a hard time. But I knew it was the right thing. A year later, so I stopped that job after a year because a different opportunity came along. A year later, they came to me, for those of you who attended the session, my last session, talking about the internet browser incident. They came to me after hearing about that and said, we want to sponsor you for a year. Because we had an incredible 2020. They thrived during the pandemic, many manufacturing companies did. And they said, we want to invest our excess into people we think are doing great work and in our community. And so for a year, I got to pursue acting, film composing, and they gave me a paycheck every 2 weeks. So don't underestimate investing well into whatever you're doing at the time, because you never know what the Lord's going to bring out of that, okay?
Can we clip that? Can we clip that for Instagram? Yeah. Cool. Thank you so. I appreciate that. Aaron, that's incredible. Thank you for sharing that. Okay, guys, there's literally a full breakout that we're teaching on self-taping tomorrow, so I'm just gonna say if you wanna learn more and have a really great opportunity to talk about it, it's gonna be awesome. So come to that tomorrow if you can, things to try while you're self-taping. Okay, how do you prioritize your personal devotional time when you're busy on set? Micah? I feel like you just got off a feature film, so this is a great opportunity to just see what you're...
I did, and on this film, I was wearing multiple hats. So
Yeah.
I was very, very busy, sun up to sundown. I wasn't just acting. So I was doing hair and makeup, and I was also a producer on it. So it was setting your alarm clock just a little bit early. Like, you got to do it. And it would be like me rolling over in bed, and like I would literally what I did in this last film was like the Bible app, has the verse of the day. I would read that, make sure I like really kind of soaked on that for a moment, and then like listened to the little devotional that went with it. And sometimes it's just that, and like that's all that you have the time and energy for. But then throughout your day, like just say a quick prayer, like just take a minute, take that deep breath, like a lot of people in the secular world a friend of mine was told to become a smoker when she started getting into the industry. And it's because if you're a smoker, you go out and you take a break and you take some deep breaths. Like we can do our own version of that. We don't have to become smokers. I don't know. I don't know what it is actually because I'm not a smoker. But
Justin knows apparently, so.
No, we know what 10-1 and 10-2 are, but I'm sure that there's a smoke break one.
I'm sure
know.
I know there is. I'm just saying.
But anyways,
Brett
just
calling
take
me
that
out.
little moment and you and God have your little smoke break.
I'll tag on to that. So guys, in my discipleship time, my aunt and I meet every Tuesday, and it's so life-giving. And normally, every single movie I'm a part of, I'm struggling with something new. And this last time I was just like, okay, God and I have been working on my identity in him, and I feel excited and that he's giving me this gift, but what if I have mom brain? What if I forget all my lines? The enemy was just coming in, just feeding lies like, you may be gifted, but you could mess up. You could, forget everything. And so she literally opened up her word with me right before I went on set, and on my script, there's like that fun front page, that has, this last one was Golden Influencer by Sherry Rigby, Suzanne Niles, all these people on it, but there's all this white space. And so when I don't tangibly sometimes honestly bring my Bible, which I should, but if I'm in a rush, I write scripture of what I'm battling with, and I put it on the front page. And when I'm in the makeup chair or I'm in my holding room, I'm trying to recite that scripture so that I am armoring up with the very thing I'm fighting right before. So maybe it's not just opening up your Bible, it's having verses of what you're struggling with right before you go.
Great answer. Yeah, I wanted to tag on that really quick. One of my friends, Spencer Weaver, he's around. He's an incredible key grip. He was on Lifemark. He was on this last film with Sherry and these two awesome ladies. And he actually, on his Apple boxes, everybody knows what the Apple boxes look like. During shooting, I was like watching his cart moving. They're shooting some behind the scenes content, and he allowed all his kids to Sharpie drawings all over his Apple boxes. And it was the sweetest reminder. And as a dad who I woke up before my daughter woke up that morning, didn't get to see her, and I was super sad because I knew she was going to be in bed by the time I got home. I was like, man, I miss my kids so much. And I looked up and I saw these little kids' scribbles, and I went up and talked to Spencer. He's like, well, when I can't be with them, I want to be reminded of them. So Amber, and just like understanding that if we put a reminder like visually somewhere on a script, on our phone background, on wherever, then we constantly are reminded like the people that we love and the person that we serve. I think it's a really awesome testament. So that was something that spoke to me leaving that set. I was like, I know that when I get on set, I either want my daughter to do that, and then I also want to have something spiritual that I can look towards to point me back to Christ, which is awesome.
Yeah, and having the verse on your phone, that actually sparked a conversation for me with somebody on set. They're like, what does that mean? Why do you have that? So that's another really good, I love that you said that.
I love it. I'm gonna get a tattoo on my forehead. That's Jeremiah 29:11. I'm just kidding. We had a question up here earlier that I don't want to skip over because a lot of these questions are important, but some of the ones that are getting thumbs up, I think we've either touched on or whatever. So I want to go back to what the biggest concern for actors is right now. Amber, I'm curious to know what you would say about what do you feel like the concern for actors is?
I can speak what I'm concerned about myself with, too, as an actress. So I'm speaking from personal experience. I'm concerned, and we're going to talk about this more tomorrow, but how insecure everybody is. It's heartbreaking to me. I'm like, aren't we children of God? What's wrong with us? Truly, I'm like, what is wrong? And I think that we are trying to show truth. We're trying to be these amazing actors with believable performances, but we're not even going to truth itself, which is in the Word. We don't know it. We need to know it better, and that is what will fight against insecurity. In Galatians 6, it says, make a creative exploration of who you are before you think about the work he's given you to do. But then it's so exciting right after you get the identity right, which in discipleship I'm learning is ongoing. It's not like, oh, cool, I've got my identity check, which if you're like me, that's what I want. I want to get a check. Oh, my identity is good. Moving on. And it's not like that. And so we, as much as we memorize lines, we need to be memorizing scripture, and we've got to be ready because the enemy, oh my goodness, it's so nice to sit here with all of these people that we have talked about the struggle, and we have this. So after you know the word, I would say my concern is that people feel isolated. They think that every single person up here, that we're all confident all the time. It's not true. Most of us are back there praying for each other, make it about God, not me. May I bless this person's speech, whatever. It's hard, and it's always going to be hard, but we're all speaking truth over each other, and it starts by getting in the Word. And so I just hope that we'll be a generation of filmmakers who know the truth more than we know our film.
Piggybacking on that, insecurity, major part of, I would say, this industry as a whole, and cautioning you all to not fall prey to this sense of comparison that happens on a lot of sets. You get on a set for a one day, this happen. You know, I'm new to this as well, so I feel like I relate with everyone here trying to figure out what's next. When you get those early gigs, you will have people when you're on your, you know, you have a day on set and they're like, oh, what have you worked on? What directors have you worked with? And you're just constantly like, oh my gosh, should I be here? Like, did I actually land this role?
What have I seen you in? What have I seen you in?
Exactly. And it makes you like get so tense and start to wonder, gosh, should I not be doing this? Am I not actually talented? Because I'm just a day player, does that mean I'm less important than these people? And that can guide your decision making, and that should not be the case, okay? If you're on set, you're there for a reason, and people will notice if you're not constantly trying to figure out where you are on the totem pole, which happens a lot. You're sitting in makeup or wardrobe and everyone's chatting. It's almost this weird feeling out of, do I respect you or are you lower than me? Like, how do I treat you? Don't be that. And you will stand out among actors, your fellow actors, if you choose not to participate in that.
Oh, that's awesome. Thank you so much, Aaron.
Can I say something really quick
go ahead.
about that? Kind of piggybacking off of both of those, and you even talked about it today in your session about a lot of creatives are very hurt, wounded people, and your lives can be pretty chaotic and a mess. And so that is, I think, a big concern for me is that this industry does not breed healthy individuals. It just doesn't. It doesn't breed healthy relationship. It doesn't breed a healthy person. So you are responsible for that. So make sure that you take care of that, whether that's getting therapy, making sure you have a good community, those type of things. Like, because this industry will chew you up and spit you out, and you will have nothing left. And it's always tragic to see people who are brilliant creatives and their personal lives were just shambles, and they died unknown or died with nobody and nothing. You know, so just don't let that happen either.
Thank you. Yeah. Guys, there's some other really great questions. We're going to come to a quick close here, but I want to pray for these people, and I want to pray for all of you guys. So we're going to jump into that. Some of these questions, you guys, I think all of us would be willing to answer to you if you come up to us. If you have questions on the screen that you wrote down, come up and ask us. We'd love to answer them. A lot of this I know is going to be covered in a lot of the breakouts. The directing one, I'm sure Brett's going to be talking about any directing questions. Acting ones, we've got breakouts with Micah and Amber and I tomorrow. So we're really, really excited. Let me pray for us, and just join me in praying for these awesome actors as well as everybody in the room. Father, thank you so much that you are the greatest storyteller, that you sent your son and used parables as the primary way to communicate through his time here. And we're just grateful that we have been called to do a similar thing and to bear that identity. And God, we're so grateful for the Christian Worldview Film Festival. I am so grateful for the people sitting on this stage that are here, that I am inspired by, that I love. And Lord, I just pray that you would abundantly bless them with roles, with opportunities to continue to platform your name over themselves, that you would create opportunities for them on set as crew, as composer, as the director, Lord. I pray for funding for films that they're still finishing. I pray for opportunity. I pray that you would just continue to speak to them and bring the peace that surpasses understanding, God. We're so incredibly grateful to have a Father that is just empathetic towards us and loves us and is merciful. So please continue to show them the clear path that you've laid in front of them. Help us to trust you, to surrender. And Lord, for every person in this room, I pray that you call us deeper into relationship with you before you reveal a purpose or a platform as an actor or a director or a storyteller. Lord, just continue to help us to trust you with our life, and then give us a purpose through either this business, or reveal to us the plan that is greater than what our plan is usually, which is yours. So we love you, and we're thankful for you, and in your name we pray. Amen. Thank you guys so much.